It's Monday, November 17th, and we have a couple areas that we're expecting to see thunderstorms today across the U.S. One is going to be in parts of the northern Mississippi River Valley, through parts of the lower Midwest, then all the way up through to the central plains, one in the desert Southwest, mostly in parts of western Arizona, and then we have one, once again, in parts of central California. None of this is for severe weather, just some general thunderstorm activity with maybe some gusty winds. And starting in California, this is what it could look like today. We're going to see our first kind of line of storms, possibly being thunderstorms, move onshore actually in the very, very early morning hours, probably when it's still dark out. This is going to affect first parts of Northern California all the way down to parts of San Francisco. This is going to be as a cyclone or low pressure system kind of slams into the coast. Once again, this is just going to bring quite a lot of rainfall, maybe some gusty winds, nothing of severe nature. Now, once day breaks, this will probably only have reached down to parts of kind of the more upper parts of Southern California, and this will not reach the Los Angeles area probably until later around the mid-afternoon hours. And then this will start to disorganize a bit. We'll actually see our low pressure center migrate a little bit southward. Here it is right here, and we can actually see it tracking a little bit to the south, and this is probably what it will look like around the evening hours, around sunset. It will get a lot more broken in our kind of front that is going to be connected to this low pressure system isn't going to be as full and as widespread, producing a lot of precip. Still maybe seeing a line that kind of creates a little bow shape stretching from Northern California into parts of Nevada and then back down near the Los Angeles metro area. And this actually could bring the potential for some flash flooding. Here's the Storm Prediction Center's excessive rainfall risk area, and we can see that we actually have a yellow slight risk that could be for up to 2 to 4 inches of rain and maybe a slight concern for some flash flooding. Now, moving on to our other area of concern, that is going to be in parts of the central plains and Midwest. And this is going to be from a low pressure system, which actually only impacted California a couple of days ago. And this, with its warm front, occluded front, and cold front, lots of fronts connected to this low pressure system, and even some kind of troughs left behind in the wake, producing some lift. We can see that actually around the afternoon hours. That's what we'll see across parts of Colorado and Utah alike, even Wyoming, but except that precipitation in Wyoming will actually be more related to the actual low pressure system itself. But as we go into the later afternoon hours, it looks like we're going to see a pretty big, almost band of rain initiated by a stationary front and warm front. So this could be expected to be a mixture of thunderstorm activity and just regular showers and maybe some windy weather. Once again, nothing severe though. And this big bow of fronts is going to stretch all the way out into parts of the more eastern Midwest. So that would also be Illinois. This would likely happen after sunset though. So that's when a lot of this rain will start. Even right here along the cold front, warm front complex, we can see a couple of blips going. These would be more likely to be thunderstorms rather than just regular showers, while this would just be regular showery activity, just bringing quite a bit of rainfall and maybe some gusty winds. Now, as we move on into the later hours, so even in the morning tomorrow, we could actually see kind of a resurgence of some stronger thunderstorm activity, once again with a low pressure system, and then closer to looks like a secondary warm front and then our cold front alike. These blips right here in parts of where Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, and even Tennessee and Arkansas meet looks like they could be a little bit more serious. So maybe something to look out for. These probably wouldn't be severe though, just something to keep your heads up on. And then for other areas that we didn't cover that could receive some precipitation, we pretty much hit it all in what we just covered, but other areas which are going to be pretty typical, we are going to see more precip up here in the Pacific Northwest today. As usual, that's just going to be the weather pattern, probably lasting for the rest of the year. Then maybe some drizzles up here, potentially even some more snow in the northeast. It has been a really cold couple of weeks in the northeast, and even there's been quite a bit of snowfall up there. Probably expect that to continue at least through today. Then, even with our front, which could stretch down all the way into parts of Texas, we could see maybe a couple of kind of weak little showers pop up along that. Something to look for in the early morning hours today. But other than that, that's pretty much it for precip across the US. And this is what our jet stream looks like. This is going to be the main causer of a lot of our weather. Here I am just kind of painting out where a lot of our low pressure centers are going to be. In fact, this low pressure center with this big trough up here in the northeast has been the reason why we've seen a lot of the rest of the country warm up in the past week, and why this has kind of stayed the same temperature and has remained freezing, allowing for some snow to fall. But back to what our weather causing things are going to be. One is going to be this kind of low pressure system, or trough, if you will, moving across the US. We can see that it's going to bring some forcing for our storms for sure, as the jet really gets kind of ripping around the sunset hours. Same thing for this cyclone off the coast of California as it moves inland. This is going to be the main thing bringing a lot of our rainy weather out here, and maybe even that flood threat. And last but not least, our temperatures look pretty much the same as yesterday today. If I were to draw an imaginary line for some warmer weather, so that would be above the mid 60s. Feels like temperatures, here it is. So the desert southwest, parts of the central southern plains, parts of the southern Midwest, and then southeast, then Gulf Coast, with a heat max probably being in Texas today, maybe even reaching some feels like temperatures in the 90s. That is going to be the warm line. Everything above that or north of that line is going to be quite a bit cooler. So that's going to be like mid 40s feels like temperatures during the day, with a lot of freezing temperatures in our higher elevations out west. Even some freezing temperatures maybe even expected in parts of North Dakota, and even on a little bit ahead of a warm front advancing in South Dakota as well. But the main place, which is still going to remain freezing, is going to be the Northeast, once again allowing for some snowfall. Now, something that we've been seeing the past couple of days is that as we go into the night, we see our cold temperatures creep quite a bit more south. That is actually not going to be the case tonight. It looks like our cold temperatures are going to remain pretty much in the same place. And actually, as we go into today, we actually might see our warm temperatures migrate a little bit more north. So that's just something to look for in our temperatures as we go through the day and even into tomorrow.